While Space Engineers 2 has just received a massive update that has added many fan favourite features to the game,
check out this video here if you're interested.
That doesn't mean that Space Engineers 1 isn't also receiving its own large updates in the near future. There are 2 new updates coming to the game this year, the first one being the Prosperity update, which is an update focusing on bug fixes, system improvements and overall game stability, on top of including even more improvements to the economy system, which was completely overhauled in their last update, Economy 2, with a number of changes coming to contract station services and the economy system in general. And there also seems to be a couple of other interesting additions coming in this Prosperity update as well. And since I recorded this video, it was announced that this update will be releasing on the 27th of July. So just assume I know that for the rest of this video, okay? After the Prosperity update, at the end of the year, we are receiving a very, very highly requested update, specifically by me, Warfare 3, and I am very excited about that. So, without further ado, let's get into everything we've been told about these updates so far. So, whilst the Prosperity update will be focusing on bug fixes and quality of life improvements, there's something that's a little bit difficult to tease to the player and get them excited about the update, so we'll also be receiving a whole host of new blocks, and also a new endgame global encounter. Now, one of these new blocks is a new Prototech block, which are the endgame blocks in Space Engineers 2, which you can only receive by doing those global encounters that I mentioned a second ago. And if you aren't aware what global encounters are, I've done a whole video covering everything you need to know about them. But basically, you receive a GPS on your HUD that is a long way away, so you go there and there's a super difficult encounter for you to complete, and once you've completed it, inside that encounter, there'll be one or more Prototech blocks, which are more advanced versions of base game blocks. And because every single Prototech block is a more advanced version of a base game block, it would stand to reason that in this teaser here, where we are shown a new Prototech block, that this block would be an improvement over a base game block. And it seems very likely to me, based on its design and the fact that we don't already have a Prototech block of this, that this Prototech block here is a Prototech O2H2 generator, which is a block that converts ice into hydrogen and oxygen. This was personally one of my most requested Prototech blocks, even before we knew what Prototech blocks were being added to the game, as the O2H2 generator is so slow when you have a big ship. It takes so long to fill up all those hydrogen tanks on your ships. You have to place hundreds of O2H2 generators in order to quickly get a substantial amount of hydrogen into your tanks. So, an improved version of this, and hopefully a more efficient version as well, which produces more oxygen and hydrogen from less ice, will be a very welcome addition. Now, this doesn't mean this will be the only Prototech block that we'll receive in this update, but as of recording, we haven't seen any other designs. In the next teaser for this update that we've received, we see one of those global encounters that I mentioned earlier. This is a brand new variant, not one we've seen before, and it appears to be an asteroid base with several different satellites around it. And as you can see on the side of the asteroid base, the base itself is protected by a safe zone, which will presumably need to be disabled before we can enter this base. There is a global encounter in the game like this currently. There is a Factorum satellite, which is the faction that all the global encounters belong to. Like and subscribe for the lore video if you want to know more about Factorum. And once you've taken out all these satellites around this station, the safe zone goes down and you're able to disable the station and get inside to access the Prototech blocks. So I assume this encounter is going to be very similar, where you have to take out all these satellites around the base, which are presumably armed, although we can't see weapons on this one. In fact, I can't see weapons on any of them, so presumably there's a bit more to this. Potentially when you go near this base, it will spawn in reinforcements and drones for you to fight first. But I still imagine that taking out these stations is the key to disabling this safe zone. Now, I can't see any new blocks on the outside of the station, but as we continue inside the station, we see a couple of new blocks. Over here, we can see some sort of armored railing variant. You can see that it has a panel at the bottom and then a beam across the top. And you can quite easily compare this to the normal railing variant, which is next to it and above it and to the right. So this is very clearly a new variant of the railing block, which are presumably becoming in a DLC alongside this update. There doesn't appear to be any other new blocks in this shot, but if you do see any new blocks that I don't mention, please leave a comment below to let me and everyone else know. In the next shot though, we see a very interesting new block, a new cockpit on this ship here. You can see it slopes slightly down at the top and then has a much steeper incline at the front, which is very different from all the cockpits we currently have in the game. A lot of them are either really slanted and then come to a sort of point at the end, or they're more boxy and are only a couple of degrees off being a cube. Now, as I mentioned, these encounters will likely have drones we'll have to fight at it, so potentially this is one of the new drones that'll be at this encounter, although it does appear to have a Prototech jump drive on the back of it, so potentially this is just here as one of the Prototech rewards for completing this encounter, a prototype Factorum jump drive fighter. And on the right, we can see a clearer look at one of those new railing blocks I mentioned earlier, this time being used on its side to add more detail to the side of this corridor. The next shot is where it gets really interesting though. We can see two new blocks here. The first block is at the back, at the end of the corridor, right in front of us, and this is presumably the block they want us to see. It appears to be some sort of server block, potentially a cosmetic one, with a door that you can open up and to see all the racks inside of it. I do hope the door opens up, as I do love little interactive elements on blocks like this. But regardless, this does look like a very interesting cosmetic block to detail your builds with. However, as I said, there are 2 new blocks on this build. The second one is on the right here, and I'm not too sure what it's supposed to be. It's a bit difficult to see at this angle, but you can see that it's got 3 lights on it, and I'm presuming because of this angle there is an additional light cut off, so one might say there are 4 lights. So this would potentially indicate that this is some sort of cosmetic variant of the event controller. Oh wait, the battery has 4 lights as well, but this doesn't really look like a battery. I'm trying to think what other blocks in Space Engineers have 4 lights on them as well. I'm sure there's more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head at the moment. So why don't you let me know which block you think this is a cosmetic variant of? I'm leaning towards event controller from this design, but I'm happy to be proved wrong. In the final shot in this teaser, we round a corner and we can see a couple of other new blocks. To start with, we can see a very clear view of our new Prototech O2H2 generator, and I have to say, in-game, this does look like a very cool block, especially with this element in the middle you can see moving up and down. I love blocks with little animated bits on them, so this is a big win from me. Additionally, we can see a couple of variants of our new railing block. To start with, you can see the normal version on the right, and then you can see a version with a gap in the middle here, and then in between this gap, I believe there's a new stair variant here. It's a bit difficult to see because we can only see the railings of it, but the stairs we currently have in the game have rounded railings on it. But this version appears to have squared off railings, like the new railing blocks we have. So presumably this is a new stair variant to fit in with the new railings. From the angle of this shot, it's a bit difficult to make out if there's any other new blocks here. Like for example, I think this block underneath here is new, but I can't quite make out what it is from this angle. And additionally, I bet there's some sort of secrets hiding in the darkness here. But I'll leave you to speculate on that, and instead I'll take a look at the next teaser. As mentioned, the Prosperity update focuses on quality of life improvements and bug fixes, and the next teaser goes through several of those quality of life improvements. To start with, we have improvements to the store block, which is quite a simple change, but it makes a lot of sense. They've changed some of the wording on the block. For example, you can see it says listing type, and then store is buying, and then store is selling. In the current version of the game, this is listing type, order, and offer. So now in the new version, it's a lot clearer on what this actually means, especially as at a glance, order and offer look very similar to each other. And additionally, on the store block administration menu, which is used for setting up your own store blocks and selling your own items, they've updated it here to say list for sale and request to buy from what it previously was of new offer and new order. Once again, just changing the text a little bit to make it much easier to understand. This teaser also shows us that they've replaced the starting ship for when you spawn in survival in space to this new one here. Now previously, they replaced the starting pod that you spawn onto planets with this new rover, which I thought was a massive improvement and massively improved the early game of Space Engineers 1, and it appears that they're doing the same for the space start, and this new starting ship will also be a massive improvement as well. Whilst we can't see a lot of differences with it, because I imagine most of the blocks are inside this ship, one of the main things you can immediately see is that this starting ship has hydrogen thrusters. The ship that you currently start with in Space Engineers 1 is an ion ship, meaning that you can only fly around in space with it, and can't land on planets. But this new version, being hydrogen powered, means that you can both fly it around in space, and also take it to planets and land on it. Now we'll have to see if this actually has enough thrust to fly on planets. I would imagine it's fine. You'd actually be surprised how much these large grid small thrusters actually give. And this may also add to the challenge of the space start, as previously you could fly around space as much as you want because your thrusters were ion powered, and that meant the only barrier to getting around was having energy. But now part of the challenge is that you'll have to fly around and find ice in order to refuel your hydrogen ship, in order to continue exploring space. I'm not going to lie, the space start in Space Engineers 2 is never that appealing to me, specifically because of the limitations of the starting pod. But this new starting ship has definitely made me a lot more interested to try a new space-based survival start. You probably wondered why on some of the previous footage, there was a bunch of sad faces appearing on the screen. And that's because, oh no, the starting ship was lost. Whatever will we do? If only there was some way to find the ship. Oh, you're telling me in the new update, there's a way to find your ships if they've gone missing? There is a new ping feature, which automatically creates a GPS marker at the ship and allows you to easily find it. Wow, that's amazing. As a server admin, I'm basically out of a job. All jokes aside, the ability to ping and find your missing ships, I would never lose a ship personally. But it's very nice to know that if I do, I can just press ping, get a GPS marker, and go over and find it. The next part shows some changes to the services terminal, which is a new block added in the last update, which allows you to store grids that you're not using, and also has the option to repair ships and salvage ships. The specific changes that we've been shown affect the storage part of it, where there's a couple of tweaks to the UI. At the bottom, it now shows you how many space credits you have. On the left, there's now the option to switch between multiple pages, and at the top, if you click each of the columns, it will now sort the column by the thing you've clicked. So if you click PCU, it will sort all the grids by the amount of PCU they use, and if you click blocks, it will sort by the number of blocks it uses. There's another new feature shown on here as well, which is that if a grid was recently changed, there is now a delay before you can store it. This is to fix a sort of exploit where if your ship was attacked, you could get a second ship with a services terminal on it and then store your main ship in it, and then it didn't matter if that little ship was destroyed because your main ship was then stored in the services terminal network and then you could retrieve it from any other station. But now with this cooldown, as soon as you come under attack, there is now a cooldown before you can actually store the ship in order to prevent you from using that exploit. So that means no more cheating for you naughty boys and girls. Oh, I cringe a little bit saying that. The final quality of life feature shown in this teaser, before we go and talk about Warfare 3, is now when you fill up oxygen from a survival kit, medical bay or refill station, if your suit oxygen is above 100%, it will now refill oxygen bottles in your inventory as well. Now I know this was previously a mod feature, but it is a welcome addition to the base game as well. So with the prosperity teasers out of the way, let's take a look at Warfare 3.
I lied. There's something else to talk about.
There's a couple of new blocks on the toolbar at the bottom. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if these stairs, this angle here, and this corridor block are new, but I 100% know that this block on number 2 and on number 4 are definitely new additions to the game. Number 2 kind of looks like the parachute block that's in the files for Space Engineers 2, but with the sloped sides, I'm assuming this is some sort of collector, potentially a cosmetic variant, or potentially by the fact that it's half a block in size, it's some sort of half block collector. You can see it has conveyor ports on the side, so I'm presuming this is a small grid block. So if you paint this sloped bit yellow, I'm definitely assuming this is some sort of small grid half block collector. Also, let's pretend that we didn't get a high quality image of this block right after I spent all this time editing this section, and the high quality image makes it really clear that this new block is a collector. I mean, just look at it, it looks almost exactly the same as my artist rendition. The block on the right could be some sort of cosmetic variant of a conveyor cover, but my immediate thought when I saw it is this some sort of light, because I've seen lights in real life that look very similar to this, although I'm currently struggling to find versions of it in Google to show you, so I'm guessing this is just some sort of new cosmetic light variant to place on your walls. So, Warfare 3, an update that I've been championing since I started my channel. And not only is it confirmed to be coming, we also know that it's going to be coming out at the end of this year, releasing in either November or December, which is also the time that NPCs and multiplayer are being added to Space Engineers 2. Oh, it's going to be a very busy Christmas. So, what's coming in Warfare 3? One of the main things that's been confirmed for this update is the addition of combat NPCs. In the previous update, they added animated NPC characters, which is animated non-player characters, but I digress. And these just walked around stations, waved at you, and just were super cute. Oh my god, they're so adorable. But in Warfare 3, it appears that they're going to be giving them guns, and they're slightly less cute when they're shooting at you. Presumably these NPCs will be added to all the existing encounters, and there'll just be a bunch of armed NPCs strolling around. Or potentially, what I think might be more likely, is they're going to add a bunch of new encounters with NPCs in them, so they can tailor them specifically for NPCs. Encounters currently in the game are specifically designed around turrets and interior turrets shooting you, so potentially it could be a good idea to create new encounters specifically designed for NPCs to walk around, so they can hide behind cover and stuff like that, rather than just slapping them onto the current encounters and leaving it at that. Now, whilst I'd be personally fine with Warfare 3 just being slapping a bunch of NPCs into encounters, I imagine there'll be more to Warfare 3 than just that. As the name Warfare 3 would suggest, we previously had 2 Warfare updates. The first one exclusively focused on ground combat, and added the pistols to the game and rocket launcher, and added a bunch of new blocks designed for combat scenarios, which are best demoed on the Uranium Heist PvP scenario, which is basically capture the flag for Space Engineers. It's pretty fun if you haven't checked it out. Warfare 2 was focused on ship combat and added a bunch of new weapons to the game, and I'll be honest, I don't expect any more ship weapons in the Warfare 3 update. As the update is adding combat NPCs to the game, I would expect the update to more focus on ground combat, with potentially new hand weapons for NPCs, or potentially new blocks for them to interact with as parts of combat. However, Warfare 3 would be the perfect time to finally add a Prototech weapon to the game. Now, whether that be a Prototech railgun, which is just an even better version of the railgun, or with Prototech being short for prototype technology, perhaps it is time for a Prototech energy weapon to be added to the game. Or maybe it's finally time for that Prototech toilet everyone's been asking for. Let me know what you guys think should be added in a Warfare 3 update, but obviously keep it in scope of what a Space Engineers update would be. They're not going to add a billion new weapons to the game, it's just completely out of scope with what they're doing. And if you want to keep up to date with what is added in both these updates when they release, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. And if you want early access to videos and access to special supporter only videos, become a YouTube member with the links in the description below.